Hello there, everyone. I'm excited to do this presentation today. We have been focusing at Cache Valley Counseling in the last little while on communication with our children or a family member. As couples, just communication in the family. And I want to take a little bit different approach with this today and talk about an interesting way that we communicate how we value ourselves. And it has to do with our view of ourselves and how we speak to ourselves when we're in the presence of our family. And it seems a little bit complex at first, but let me explain. One of our children came home from school one day so excited. She loved words and she had learned a huge word. It was in second grade. And she came in, she's like, "Mom, I have learned about metacognition." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "Metacognition. That means that we can think about our thinking." Isn't that so cool? We are, as humans, one of the few species who can really observe our own behavior and notice what we're thinking about and kind of be self-directive in that rather than managing like much of the animal world does through instinct or conditioning. And this is a cool thing that we can communicate with our children, that they can think about what they're thinking about. I want to be very specific in helping our children think positively about themselves by what we communicate to them about ourselves. Let me explain. Dr. Kristin Neff is a wonderful developmental psychologist, and she has researched the subject of self-compassion for many years. Her website is amazing, Kristin Neff, Kristen, N as in Nancy, EFF, and you can look that up. She has a lot of fun, just great tips and some free assessments that you can take to kind of measure how compassionate you are to yourself. And she talks about all the amazing benefits of self-compassion in terms of it can be a motivation. It's how we relate to ourselves. It's how we empower ourselves by the kindness, the gentleness, the understanding of our human condition. And let me share a couple of things that she talks about. One of her terms is called tender self-compassion. Nurturing aspects of kindness, being with ourselves in a kind and compassionate way. This allows us to heal. It's similar, like a tender parent offers comfort to a child when they're distressed until they can calm down. And we can do that for ourselves. Isn't that a beautiful thing? The other thing, as we're talking about communication and how we share this metacognition, this self-compassion with ourselves, is by literally modeling it out loud for our children. Let me give you an example. Many years ago, I'm now a grandma expecting well, I'm not expecting, but we're going to be having the 20th grandchild enter our family. And but as a young mom, things are pretty intense when you're a parent, right? And it can get kind of wild and crazy. And there were times as a young mom where I had to send myself to timeout. Let me explain that one. I could see that my emotions were getting the better of me, and whoever had spilled a gallon of milk on the carpet under the table, and whoever put carpet in the house under the table, I have to talk to you anyway, but that did happen. And then, anyway, just all kinds of parenting things arise in a day. And at moments I could see that I was getting pretty frustrated and that I wasn't going to be happy with what I was going to do or say next if I stayed in a setting. So I would do this for my kid, again, thinking it's that metacognition and modeling compassion. I would say, I can see that I need a timeout. So I'm going to go to my room for a few minutes. And I want you to know that while I'm there, I'm going to be working on calming myself down and getting myself kind of regulated. And then I'm going to come out so we can talk about things in a few minutes. And sometimes my kids would kind of roll their eyes because they had been to timeout on occasion. So things like that is how we model for our children how we want them to learn how to take care of themselves. And if a child is feeling a little bit out of control or distressed, you can say, hey, is there something you can do that is compassionate and helpful to yourself right now? And I love being with our grandchildren and the fun things that they do or say. We have a darling 2-year-old who her mom will say to her, can you take a breath right now? No, no. And she said, let's try it. I can see you're upset. Let's try it. Okay. And this cute little 2-year-old with her deep brown eyes will take a breath, and then she'll almost always take a little giggle. And so as we communicate that, and we can model that for our children and grandchildren, our family members, by saying, wow, I'm feeling really stressed right now. I'm just going to go out and get a breath of fresh air, and I'm going to take a look at nature. And I'm going to calm down. And I think that's going to really help my stress level. So it's kind of a fun thing to learn by what you're speaking, how you speak about yourself, how you manage your emotions, whether you're harsh or critical of yourself, or if you're like, hey, that's part of the human condition. Here's a story about that today. I was working with a couple who, is having a pretty high stress in their relationship, and I could see that they needed a little bit of hope. And so I just opened up from a personal story from my own early years. Being married, my husband was incredibly organized and I was incredibly not. And over the years, we're like married 44 and a half years now. And over time, I have learned to be a lot more organized. And guess what? He's learned to relax just a little bit. He can find anything really fast, and I'm always losing things. And so I just modeled that the human condition is that we're all imperfect and we all have challenges. And I could just see the couple relax. I could see them like, oh, my therapist is a real person, and it's okay. We can be real for ourselves as well. And that can really help the situation for people and how they talk to themselves, and how they can be understanding when they do make mistakes, or kind of just having a sense of humor about our human weaknesses. The last thought that I'd like to share tonight is about, again, modeling self-compassion, modeling kindness. Here's a line from Dr. Kristen Neff. She said, self-compassion is one of the most powerful, resilient forms of strength and coping. And when we learn how we can speak to ourselves that way, it builds resilience, it builds grit, it builds endurance capacity. And the beauty of all of that is that we can then pass it forward to our children, to our spouse. And in those moments when they're stressed or having difficulty, the modeling that is done can come back to them in the very tone of voice that you have used in kindness to yourselves, is a way that children and our loved ones can speak to themselves. I will end with a story. Speaking of the power of modeling, I went to a concert about a week and a half ago, and they were singing, the chorus was singing a lot of Broadway songs, and one of them was from the old movie Hello, Dolly. And I wasn't really familiar with the musical score, but there was one particular song called Until the Parade Passes By, I think is what it was called. And it was just like beautiful harmonies, and it was a men's chorus singing. And I looked up the words afterwards, and it wasn't until I was singing it literally today on my way home from work that I recognized that that was a song my mom had sung quite often. And the whole, I guess, message of it is don't let life pass you by. And I could just hear my mom singing until the parade passes by. I'm going to live my life before the parade passes by. And my mom has been deceased for a few years now, and I had such a good memory thinking of that song and thinking of her singing it. And so you never know the impact that you're going to have by your presence, by your way of being, by your being gentle with yourself, by being real, by even laughing at yourself sometimes. Hope this has been helpful for you, and may you use some self-compassion for yourself and also model it verbally with other people. Say it out loud, and people can relax and be calm when they see you being gentle. That's like gives them permission to be gentle too. Thanks for listening and have a great day.